The sun was still low enough to cast long, soft shadows across the cracked asphalt when Ahmed Kadim knelt beside the disabled sedan on the side of the quiet suburban road. Sweat rolled slowly down his forehead, not because of the temperature but because of the pressure pounding in his chest. His 9-year-old son Miran sat in the back seat clutching his school bag anxiously. Armin's hands shook as he lifted the hood, revealing a mess of rusted cables and a belt that looked like it had given up months ago. This wasn't his car. It belonged to the polished stranger in the tailored suit standing behind him, an irritated CEO who had already checked his watch 7 times. And as Armin worked with the bare tools he carried everywhere like a second skin, the CEO chuckled under his breath, amused that a single father in a faded t-shirt thought he could fix a car that even the company mechanic had declared hopeless. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of everyday good deeds, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Everyday Kindness, to support stories like this one. Armin tried to ignore the chuckle. He had been laughed at enough times in life. By his ex-wife when he said he'd raise Myron alone, by loan officers when he begged for a payment extension, by managers when he asked for overtime. Now this CEO, this polished executive from some high-rise building, had joined the list. The man's name was Cajun Rourke, a well-known entrepreneur who ran a tech company so big it had its own private elevator system. Cajun had waved Armin down when his car broke down near the intersection, assuming the man with grease-stained hands must work at a nearby garage. Armin didn't. He was just a father trying to get his son to school on time, but he couldn't walk past someone in need. He never had that luxury. The morning light spread gradually, brightening the narrow road that cut through their neighborhood. Birds hopped across the sidewalk unconcerned. The world was moving as usual, but inside Armin's chest, everything felt like a storm. He wiped his forehead, tightened a bolt, and tried to stabilize the loosened belt using a discarded metal clip he found near the tire. It wasn't a perfect fix. It wasn't even a good fix. But it would help the engine breathe long enough for the CEO to get to his destination. Cajun checked his watch again. "Are you almost done?" Armin nodded quietly. His voice always felt trapped when someone watched him work. Years ago, he dreamed of becoming an automotive engineer, designing engines that purred like lions. But life had redirected him, first with responsibility, then with heartbreak, and finally with the weight of raising a child alone. Now he fixed neighbors' cars for a few bills, delivered groceries at night, and prayed Miron would someday look at him with pride instead of worry. As Armin tightened the final bolt, he gently tapped the side of the engine and stepped back. "Try now," he said softly. Kazian got in, turned the key, and the engine sputtered alive like a weak cough, turning into a steady breath. The CEO raised an eyebrow, surprised but unimpressed. He rolled down the window and gave Armin a single nod that didn't quite reach gratitude. "It'll do," he said. He reached for his wallet, pulled out a single crumpled bill as though he were tipping a valet, and tossed it into Armin's hand. The sedan pulled away. Armin stared at the crumpled bill, only a 100-rupee note. His son peered at him from the back seat with wide, confused eyes. But Armin straightened, slipped the note into his pocket without complaint, and walked around to their old hatchback. It was past school time now, and Miran sighed softly, but Armin ruffled his hair and whispered, "We'll make the day better. Promise." They drove towards school, late but together. The morning sun climbed higher, bathing the street in warm gold. But Armin felt strangely cold inside. Life moved on. That night, Armin couldn't sleep. He replayed the CEO's laugh again and again, not because it wounded him, it didn't, but because he wished life had been kinder. He wished someone had looked at him once, just once, and seen more than a struggling single father with grease-stained hands. But the world had its categories, and Armin had learned to live between the lines. The next morning arrived with its own surprises. As Armin stepped outside to take Miran to school, he noticed a sleek red car parked across the street. Its curves shimmered in the rising sunlight as if carved from fire. A Ferrari. a model so rare he had only ever seen it in magazines he couldn't afford to buy. And leaning casually against it stood Casian Rourke. No suit today, just jeans and a black shirt. His face carrying something unfamiliar. Humility. Armand froze. Casian stepped forward. "I owe you an apology," he said. His voice no longer held arrogance or impatience. "Yesterday my team told me something I didn't expect. The temporary fix you made on my car wasn't just clever, it was brilliant. They said only someone with deep mechanical intuition could have pulled it off with the tools you had." Armand swallowed, unsure how to respond. Casian continued, "And here's the crazy part. This morning, I showed a Ferrari engineer the photo of your repair." He held up his phone. "He praised it, said it was resourceful engineering under pressure." Armand blinked, stunned. "Ferrari? Praised him?" Casian took a breath. "I laughed at you. I treated you like someone beneath me. But yesterday I realized I met someone smarter than half the engineers who work for me." He offered a small, genuine smile. "And I want to make things right." Myron peeked from behind Armand's leg, wide-eyed at the Ferrari. Casian kneeled slightly to address the boy gently. "Your father is incredibly talented. I hope you know that." A flicker of pride lit Myron's face, pure, bright, unstoppable. Casian then turned to Armand. "I want to offer you a job, a real one, not a small role. My company is starting a new automotive diagnostics division, and I want you there. Your instincts? They're rare." The morning light washed over Armand like a blessing he wasn't sure he deserved. His throat tightened. He had never imagined such words would ever be spoken to him, not after everything life had stripped away. He thought of the rent due next week, the grocery bills, the nights he skipped dinner so his son could eat. He thought of the 100-rupee note still in his pocket, now feeling like a symbol of a past that might finally fade. He nodded slowly. Casian's smile widened. As they drove to the company together, Armand and Miran inside the Ferrari, the neighborhood kids stared with open jaws. The car hummed like a living beast, its engine notes vibrating through Armand's bones. It felt surreal, like slipping into a dream too delicate to touch. At the company's headquarters, Casian introduced Armand to a team of engineers. Their surprise was obvious, but their respect was immediate. Casian explained everything, how Armand's roadside repair had impressed not one, but 3 automotive specialists across different companies. Armand stood quietly, embarrassed and overwhelmed, but gradually something awakened inside him, a long-forgotten confidence. He ran his hands over diagnostic screens, recognized systems intuitively, and solved small problems in minutes. Murmurs spread. The team watched him like they were witnessing something rare. By afternoon, Casian pulled Armand aside and handed him an offer letter. The salary was more than Armand had ever imagined earning. Enough to change his life, enough to make Myron's future brighter than any repair job ever could. Armand's eyes welled. Casian placed a hand on his shoulder. "I judged you wrongly, but you changed my perspective. Sometimes the brightest minds are found in the most unexpected places." As they stepped out of the building into the warm daylight, the sky looked different. Wider, clearer, like the world had tilted just slightly in Armand's favor. Myron wrapped his arms around his father's waist, hugging tightly. "I knew you were amazing," he whispered. Armand knelt, pulling his son close. "I did all this for you," he murmured, his voice trembling. "Everything." They sat together on a bench outside, sunlight dappling through the trees. Casian walked nearby, giving them space but staying close, a gesture of sincerity rather than superiority. Armand knew that life wouldn't magically become perfect, but something fundamental had shifted. A door had opened, one he'd been knocking on for years without realizing it. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to Everyday Kindness so more people can experience stories like this. As Armand watched Myron laugh for the first time in weeks, he felt a warmth spreading through him deeper than any sunlight. Hope, the kind he thought he'd lost forever, returned quietly, gently, like an old friend. And just before this story ends, Here is a small request. Comment below with one moment when kindness changed your life. Your story might inspire someone else today. By the time Cation returned to them, offering to drive them home, Armin realized something profound. Sometimes the world tests you, breaks you, bends you until you almost shatter. But every so often, in the middle of an ordinary day, life surprises you with a miracle disguised as a second chance. And Armin had finally received his.